Thucydides is an important historical figure who we should look up to, for example, because of his dedication to finding the objective truth and his desire to present the truth, his desire to present the objective truth to others. Being objective in truth means telling people not what they want to hear or what would make you look good or what would make your state look good, but it means that like telling exactly how it happened. So he was definitely not unbiased, especially by our modern standards of being unbiased with historical accounts, but he was the first historian in ancient Greece to try to actually present the facts of what happened instead of just turning a story into like a myth version of it. He actually just like said this is exactly what happened. He was born in 460 BC into a wealthy family where he was able to receive a good education and learn many of Greece's current historical stories and myths. And it was during this time that he realized how much he loved history. Thank you. And he realized he wanted to become a historian so that others would be able to hear these stories that he was hearing as well. However, all the historical stories that he was hearing, they were all like embellished and you weren't really able to tell exactly what had happened because the current Greek historians were kind of mixing in myths and saying that the gods were doing certain things that may or may not have actually happened, and they were twisting things to make Greece look a certain way, so you couldn't actually necessarily tell how something had happened. And he wanted to know what had actually happened and what was the truth about these stories. When he wrote his history of the Peloponnesian War, he only wrote like things that had actually occurred, and he interviewed people who actually fought in the war, so he had first-hand accounts of it. So like I was saying before, he wouldn't be considered completely unbiased, definitely by our current standards of journalism. He did have some biases. He was against democracy, and he ended up being exiled from Athens, as I will touch on more later. But we actually might not have our current standards that we may or may not be using to judge him about journalism being objective if it weren't for him starting that example, because like I said, he was the first historian in Greece or Rome to be trying to present objective truth, so maybe we wouldn't even have any standards to be judging him on if he hadn't started this trying to present the truth and only the truth. And then another person that we touched on in comparison to him is Tarquin, and he is basically like the opposite of Thucydides, because Tarquin did not care if people knew the truth about what happened. He didn't care about the objectivity. He did not care about any of that. He just wanted to be in political power, and his way of achieving this was to murder his opponent and then kill all of his supporters who could potentially say good things or even just true things about his opponent. And then he spread a whole bunch of lies about about the guy that he killed. So he was actually doing the opposite of spreading objective truth. He was actually spreading propaganda, and so that is in direct contrast to Thucydides, who was trying to just talk about things that had actually happened. Overall, Thucydides has virtues that we would look up to today, like as I was saying, his caring about objectivity and about truth and honesty, but he was actually not an ideal Greek citizen according to the cultural values of the time. So he didn't support democracy, which was extremely important to the Athenians, and he made sure to record like the behaviors of the Athenians that were really like immoral, especially during the plague. He made sure to write all of that down to be like, haha, see, this form of democracy is not actually working very well. And also he did not give the gods credit for things that other historians or other writers may have given them credit for. He actually didn't really believe the gods were involved at all in like day-to-day activities. And because of these things, he ended up getting exiled from Greece because they were like, no, like these are not the values that we want you to be spreading. If you had the power to be like writing things, we want you to only be talking about certain things or saying things in a certain way. So because of that, he was actually not an ideal Greek citizen at the time. However, he did have some values that they would have looked up to. So even though he was banished, he still like didn't have anything negative to say about Athens itself. The only negative things he had to say was about the system of democracy, but he still considered himself a loyal Athenian. Also, in addition to that, he fought in the Peloponnesian War. This was before he got exiled, but it's still an example of him being a ideal citizen because he was fighting and using his talents of leadership to serve Greece. So overall, he has some traits of honesty and valuing the truth that we would definitely look up to today, and he had some characteristics like questioning democracy or questioning the gods that may have not been ideal in his current time.